conspiracy theory?
No, but I think that the Trump wouldn't be pushing it that hard if it weren't for evangelicals wanting it.
Well, I don't really. I'm not trying to get at what you imagine is Trump's imaginary motive in your mind. I want to know if you, as an adult human being on this planet for 60 years, believe that Jerusalem should be the capital of Israel.
And I'm not informed enough to know. I know it's a concern. I know that Israel has politics like we do, where it's acrimonious, and you got conservatives versus liberals, and I know conservatives want Jerusalem to be the capital.
I assure you, Rick, all of the Israeli Jews, the vast majority, I don't care what party they're in, want their capital to be recognized as Jerusalem.
And what is it now? Tel Aviv? Tel Aviv is the current capital?
No, the current capital has always been Jerusalem. It's just
where are the fucking embassies? They're all in Tel Aviv, right?
That's correct.
All right, so the deal is, I assume the deal is because Jerusalem is a holy city for the world's three biggest religions, right? Or no, the two biggest religions plus Judaism, right? Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all consider Jerusalem a holy fucking city. So it's politically problematic to what it's doing is it's putting a thumb on the scale for Judaism. So I can see where it's politically problematic. So I understand the situation somewhat.
So you're against the idea?
I don't know. I mean, probably if I read up on it more, I assume I would be against the idea for the reason I just said that it's.
I see. So, wait, I just want to make this clear to myself and to our viewers. You, Rick Rosner, believe that it was a mistake for Trump to move our embassy to Jerusalem.
Again, I'm not informed. What I'm guessing is that if I read more about it, that I would think it was a mistake, but I can't say not being informed enough about it. It seems like it's a move to appease American evangelicals and Israeli conservatives. But again, like I'm going to say it again, I'm not informed enough to. That's how it would play out. Let's say I'm fairly confident that if.
All right. Well, this is a fascinating subject. I'm going to hold off on what good thing Trump did this week, and I just want to spend a little time on this. Part of the reason that Rick hates Trump is because he doesn't really know anything about international relations or history. And so when something as simple as the Jews wanting the capital they say to be the capital of their country to actually be recognized by the American president, when that comes up, Rick doesn't know whether that's a good idea. Now, I don't want to hurt your feelings, Rick. I realize that was very insulting. But for an American Jew who has been bar mitzvahed, had his daughter bat mitzvahed, has been to temple, not to be able to say that Trump did a good thing, not just a good thing, a grand thing, by having the United States recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish state. Not to be able to come out and say that because there may be some other factor you're not aware of. That shows me that you have no right to hate Trump because you don't know enough about what he's doing.
Well, I do know that Tel Aviv's been the capital. Tel Aviv's been the capital for 72 years.
Yeah, Tel Aviv is not the capital of Israel. Tel Aviv is the capital, is the place where the government and
yes,
okay, listen to me.
Yeah, it's where the Knesset meets, right? The Israeli parliament.
Jerusalem was attacked by Jordan in '67. And so they about 20 years after they were founded, they had to capture uh, the majority of Jerusalem and fortify it. So there was an interim city, the largest city, Tel Aviv, where they had governmental buildings and where the rest of the world put their embassies. But the rest of the world wanted to appease the Arabs, and so none of them recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And so they left their embassies in Tel Aviv as a slap in the face to the Jews, as a way of saying, well, you know, we're not really going to accept that. It's really the Arabs that should run Jerusalem. And Jerusalem has been the capital of Israel for 3,000 years. And so when they finally took it back, we had to wait through a succession of cowardly presidents until Trump, our greatest president of the modern era, said, no, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. The Jews want it to be the capital of Israel. They have a right to decide what their own capital is. Their army occupies it, and I, as the leader of the free world, recognize that. And so he moved our embassy to Jerusalem. But beyond that, he is now lobbying other countries in the world to do the same, so that the rest of the world will stop being assholes and stop persecuting the Jews and recognize that their capital is the one that they choose, just as London is the capital of Britain and Paris is the capital of France. But because your media has lied to you for 4 years, you're not aware of the beauty and nobility of his action.
No, I mean, so all right, like that's enough talking about that, right? You made your point. I discussed the limits of my
All
knowledge.
right, so what is the good thing that Trump did this week that you were not told of by the media?
Well, apparently I don't know what it is.
All right, well, because your media are Democrat shills that lie to Democrats so that they talk out of their asses, you didn't know that Bahrain made peace with Israel this week.
No, I didn't know that.
No, you didn't know that because what happened was Trump engineered it, and so in the past 20 days.
Wait a sec. No, maybe I knew a little bit. Because I knew that 3 treaties have been signed recently.
No, this will be the 4th.
All right.
So your media that has got you to despise Trump more than any other living human being kept from you the fact that Trump engineered a peace treaty between Sarajevo and Kosovo, between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. And there are 2 countries in the United Arab Emirates. They're united politically, but they're 2 separate countries, 2 separate Arab countries. And finally, Bahrain came in.
Yeah, I didn't hear. Or if I did
4,
hear, I kind of glossed over it.
So that's 3 Arab countries and 1 Balkan country, all of which the leaders of these countries said it was impossible for peace to be signed. And another thing that your media kept from you so that you'll be a good brainwashed Democrat is that Benjamin Netanyahu said Trump is the best U.S. president friend, is the best friend to Israel, the best president that America has ever had in their treatment of Israel. He recognized their annexation of the Golan Heights. He has protected Israel in every way, and he says that Trump is Israel's best friend in the White House ever. Now, another thing that that Trump did, another good thing. This happened to Trump, though. I want to see if your media told you about what happened to Trump. So he didn't do it. It's something being done to him. Have you heard about it?
If you're going to say nominated for a Nobel Prize, then I'm going to Yeah, I'm
Okay.
well aware
All
of
right.
that shit.
All right. So your media told you about that. Very good.
Well,
And so
this is not the first time he's been nominated. I think the same guy nominated him like last year or 2 years ago, right?
actually, no, your media lied to you about that.
Well,
Your
he's been
media lied
nominated
to you.
more than once,
I'm aware of that, and I'm going to explain more to you. Your
and I'm
media
just
lied to
guessing it
you.
was the same guy, but
Yeah,
maybe it
no,
wasn't.
your media lied to you because
Why?
a
If
couple
I
of you.
guess wrong, then
I'm
my
I'm going to
media.
explain it to you. I'll explain to
Okay.
you how your media lied to you. Your media lied to you because a couple of
Wait, let
years
me tell you.
ago.
Wait, but why you're telling? I hate it when my wife tells me what I think. So before you tell me how I was lied to, let me tell you how I was lied to.
We just
Okay,
heard it.
the deal is that it's fairly easy to get nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Um, I guess anybody at a certain level in government throughout the world can submit a nomination. And this guy's a member of like Norway's parliament, but he's also kind of a far, according to my media, which I believe, by the way, it's not like I'm skeptical of it. The guy is like a far right, racist kind of. Did they call him a lunatic? I don't know, but like I assume he's kind of a lunatic, the guy who nominated Trump. Um, so anyway, that's my understanding.
Okay.
He
Well,
wasn't that kind
actually, not bad, not bad. What happened was I thought you were referring to something else. I'm glad I let you talk. 2 or 3 years ago, there was an American politician that was pushing to get him nominated for the lull in aggression between North Korea and America. And I didn't think that was a good idea back then, and that went nowhere. But yes, you're right. This week, a political leader in Norway and Sweden both are trying to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, your media already got to you and convinced you that the people trying to nominate him have no credibility. Of course, they must be terrible people if they're doing this. So they've done their job. They had
yeah,
to
yeah,
admit it,
yeah,
but then they
yeah,
immediately smeared them so that the brainwashing would continue. But
yes, yes. I mean,
but but
I
but
mean, I don't
but
characterize it as brainwashing, but everything else I agree with.
okay. But to me, it wasn't just him. It was another politician, one in Norway and one in Sweden.
Okay.
I guess they're both bad people because they did this.
I
But
don't know.
I have to
I
say,
only read about the one guy, so
all right. But I have to say, to me, um, I don't need anybody to nominate him because in my lifetime, the people that have been nominated for peace prizes are American leaders that have negotiated peace treaties uh, with very, very hostile enemies where nobody thought they would ever make peace. And so, given that Trump is getting 4 peace treaties in the past 3 weeks, I think if anybody deserves a peace prize, this is the one. I mean,
so
I don't need anyone to tell me that he deserves it.
so at face value, not having read anything about much about any of these treaties except for the Kosovo one, um, I'd say it could be, a big deal. But I assume that when I go and I read about these treaties, that um, it's going to turn out there. This is just what I'm guessing. That when I read whatever I read, um, that I don't know. I'll be surprised if I can find legit sources saying that they really are a big deal, and I'll actually be a little impressed because since I have Trump derangement syndrome, I'm not going to be a lot impressed. But if any of these treaties are actually kind of a big deal and something that I mean is a significant step forward, then I'll be a little impressed.
Well, I mean, here's what's interesting. You've already read about Kosovo, Serbia, and
Yeah.
you read some crackpot, a Kosovoan, who said, "No, it's not a good treaty." Well, the leaders of Serbia and Kosovo, I watched the signing and both of them made speeches afterwards where they said they never thought it was possible that the two of them would be able to put aside their differences and make such a marvelous treaty, and they thanked Trump for letting it happen.
Well, let me ask you
So,
this.
so
Let
I
me
mean,
ask you,
the
how
kook that your media,
I would assume Kosovo and Serbia are not big countries. I assume they're getting like American aid, right?
I don't know.
Well, I would guess, right? That the countries that, I don't know, have what, 2 million people apiece, maybe 3 million, I don't know. If we're giving
Serbia's got a lot of people in it.
it, well, okay,
Serbia is much bigger than Kosovo.
okay, all right. So anyway, I assume we're giving them a few $billion apiece,
I
and
don't know.
but I don't know. That's my assumption that we're giving them some aid because we like to, we sweeten the pot, and in that case, even if they have reservations, they're going to say, yeah, this is the greatest fucking thing.
Well, actually, no. What it is um, they have had they're bordering one another. Kosovo used to be part of Serbia, and
Yeah,
they fought. They had a bloody war.
yeah, ethnic
And
cleansing kind of shit.
well, I mean they. I think what they don't want is to have deadly enemies right over the border. And these peace treaties are one of the best things that's ever happened to those two countries, if not the best. So
Yeah.
you can try to, yeah, well, Serbia used to be the main state of the 6 Yugoslavian states: Dalmatia, Slovenia, Serbia, Macedonia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina.
Well, let's do the full
And
background then.
Kosovo was part of Serbia, but
All
it
right.
broke
So
away. Now,
hold on, but let's Yugoslavia used to be the umbrella country.
Croatia, yeah.
The Yugoslavia used for a few decades was under the thumb of this dictator Marshal Tito, and he was
I just want to say Slovenia was not part of Yugoslavia. I meant to say Croatia. Sorry for showing off and getting one wrong. Go ahead.
all right. So anyway, so all these little areas that had long-standing, going back 1,000 years, ethnic and religious hatred for different, each other, were united under this dictator, who he was one of the biggest for being Eastern Europe. He was the biggest non-communist dictators in Eastern Europe, and he was there for close to 30 years probably. And while he was dictating Yugoslavia, they didn't fight. And then I guess he died, or what happened? He got kicked out, or anyway, then all these fucking enclaves started killing each other big time.
Well, what happened was Yugoslavia was a communist country under Tito, Marshal Tito.
Yeah, but it wasn't it was independent.
Somewhat independent of the Soviets, of Russian rule, somewhat independent. But when he died, the other 5 they called themselves republics of Yugoslavia. They didn't want to be led by Serbia. Serbia was sort of the main one, and they started to resent Serbian dominance over the other ones. So Croatia broke away, and there's also differences in religion. Some Christian, some Muslim. One of the things that happened, though, is that it didn't really need to happen. There were factions in each country that were that sort of played up the ethnic differences in order to shore up their own power, so that they could, which is a common thing. The Democrats do it right now. they try to emphasize the difference between blacks and whites in order to get black votes. So the same exact thing happened in Yugoslavia. It's called, and it broke up Yugoslavia into the six former republics.
I mean, they had a lot of little holocausts there. There was ethnic cleansing. Tens of thousands of people got slaughtered. Clinton in the 90s dropped a bunch of bombs on what, Serbia?
Yeah, Belgrade.
What?
Belgrade, which is Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, was bombed by us. I believe he bombed military installations, and the leader of Serbia immediately was overthrown. That was the end of him,
Okay.
because Serbia didn't want to go to war with the U.S. and the result of it was they let Kosovo go. I'm not certain, but I believe Kosovo is Muslim. Yeah, I am certain. Kosovo is Muslim, and Serbia is Orthodox Christian. And so there was, in that case, the U.S. went to war for Muslims, which doesn't explain a lot of their hatred of us. So anyway, the point is that nobody thought that Kosovo and Serbia would make peace, and it's a very real peace. It dissolves the tensions between the countries that had been in existence since the 90s, and it's all because of Trump. I mean, obviously, both sides wanted to have a resolution, but Trump figured out how. One other thing I wanted to mention, which I mentioned last week, is that the brilliant thing about Trump's strategy, just to show you why Trump is such a brilliant leader, in spite of what your media has told you, is that he's used a strategy with these three Arab countries that none of the other American presidents have thought of. Because what happens is, I'll keep this very brief, I know I've been talking a lot, is that the other leaders of America say, okay, in order to solve the Israeli-Palestinian Arab conflict, we have to solve the problems between the Palestinians and Israel. All American presidents have made that mistake. Clinton made that mistake, and that's why the peace treaty fell through, because what Clinton didn't realize is that even though he agreed to Arafat's demands, in the end, Arafat still walked out because the Palestinians don't want peace with Israel. They want to destroy Israel. So what Trump did was he looked at the situation and he said, okay, I'm a businessman, I'm a deal maker. Which Arab countries are vulnerable to, are soft and might make peace with Israel? So he's gone around to all the other Arab countries and say, let's not talk about the Palestinians right now. Would you benefit from peace with Israel? And he's found three of them that said, yeah, we kind of would. Well, let's let the Palestinians deal with whatever the hell they want, but we would like peace with Israel. So that's what he did. He avoided the problem. He's a deal maker, and he thought of something that no one thought of. So it not only did he make peace, which is a great thing in and of itself, but he did it brilliantly in a way that no one thought of. I would never have thought of it. None of the American presidents thought of it. And in fact, he said he's working on all the other Arab countries. So what's going to end up happening?
All right. So I'll read up on it, and it may turn out to be kind of a big deal, or maybe not. It may be window dressing, I don't know, or somewhere in between. But the deal is that we are in the end times of the Trump presidency. If he doesn't get reelected, we have 50 days until Election Day, and there's 45% of voters voted before Election Day in 2016, and they're thinking it'll be closer to 60% this time around. So people are already voting, and more will be voting, starting next week. And given how crazy everything going on is, we are going to try doing shows twice a week for about an hour instead of one show a week for 2 hours or so. So we'll have a Sunday show and a Wednesday show that'll get posted the next day. Um, but anyway, since we're in the end times, like this, what you're saying is brilliant diplomacy. It doesn't matter that much because what gets a lot of play right now is like Trump, having rallies and telling people to. You know, and one thing with Trump is in the past he's been droll. He's been, you know, he said some stuff that could be, regarded as funny. He's been a semi-entertaining speaker. He used to go on Howard Stern a lot. He did 14 seasons of The Apprentice. So when he says stuff, sometimes it's hard to tell whether he's joking or not, and sometimes he's doing both. Like when he's told people at like 4 different rallies now to vote twice for him to test out to see if there's secure voting, and it's really hard to tell whether he's joking or not. So when he says shit like that, that takes up a lot of space at least in my media. What else did he fuck? Oh, he keeps saying that, and he said this a lot, but saying it more lately, that he deserves 8 more years as president because of everything he had to contend with. And people hear that and they're like, and all the shit going on with COVID, all this stuff, and also that Biden is, I don't know, about 7.5 percentage points ahead of Trump in national polls. And, so that's double Clinton's lead at this point, and it's also a more sustained lead. So we're in the end times. So this what you're calling diplomatic brilliance may not matter a whole lot because there's all this other shit going on where, at least in my neck of the woods, it feels like every day is a little bit crazier than the day before. And so even if the diplomacy is a real achievement, there's all this other stuff that gets in the way of it. And it may be too late for, why didn't he why are all these treaties happening right now?
Let me just respond quickly because I have a point that a lot of people haven't considered.
Okay.
I'd like to mention this because everybody's reading the polls. If you watch our show, you probably read the polls. And I want to mention something to give you a more accurate picture. Obviously, national polls don't matter very much compared to Electoral College polls.
Right.
Except they don't matter compared to swing state polls. And
Yes.
and the reason is, Rick, I know you know this, but I have to explain it. If you win by 1 vote in California, you get 55 electoral votes. If you win by 3 million votes in California, you get 55 electoral votes. So Trump could be behind by 3 million and still win the election.
Which he was last. He lost the popular vote by about 2.9 million last time, and still won the Electoral College.
So what's happening is people are looking at the swing states. So what that means is, if you give the Democrats Illinois, California, and New York, that's a given. They're going to get those 3. And you give the Republicans Texas, Louisiana, Alabama,
Mississippi, yeah.
Then what is left is about 10, 11 swing states. Okay?
In the Midwest, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, etc.
Well, the most important swing states are always the same states, Ohio and Florida.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Electoral College map, here's what we're looking at. If the Republicans win the states, they always win. And the Democrats win the states, they always win. Then it's left to Ohio, Florida, and about 10 other swing states, 5 other swing states. Right now, Trump is neck and neck with Biden in Florida. Now, last time he won them, and if he wins Florida and Ohio, he only needs to move one or two swing states after that, and he wins the election. Now, the most likely swing states for him to win after that would be Pennsylvania or North Carolina. So, or Virginia. If and it looks like he will win Ohio and Florida, then he only has to win a couple of those swing states to win the election. So even though he's way behind, and I don't know who's going to win, I wouldn't give up hope because the real game is in the swing states.
Yes.
One more thing, very briefly. In the past 4 years, since I've admitted I was a Trump supporter, I've had about 20 people stop speaking to me. No, probably 100 on Facebook, but in my personal life, maybe half a dozen. Real people, good friends, close friends, stop speaking to me. These are friends I've had for maybe decades have stopped speaking to me because I voted for Trump. Now, what that tells me and what the pollsters are saying is that you have to give Trump an extra 3 points because people are now lying to the pollsters. Because we know that Democrats will stop speaking to us at best and at worst try to kill us.
So that's a thing called shy Trump voters. And I've heard it being up to maybe 2%. I have never heard 3%. But anyway, it's a thing that people think may exist. This time around, there's a counter trend it's stronger now than it was during 2016, where it may be that the wives of Trump voters may secretly vote for Biden because Trump has lost, because there's a huge gender gap between, in Trump in voters. You know, the women are more strongly for Biden than men. But there is a chance that that's thing one, is that, you know, shy people who are lying to pollsters. And by the way, the national number it's a nice pocket number to see how he's doing overall. But yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. So I look at 538.com and I look at The Economist. Has a thing in USC Dorn site, USC LA Times, and all these, the two of those do simulations based on the probabilities of winning each state. So they run electoral vote polling. So 538 says right now Biden has a 75% chance of winning based on electoral votes, and the Economist says he's got an 83% chance, but that's still not confidence giving, because they were saying the same shit about Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. And there's one more thing, which is, now we're going to close after this, I think. We don't need to argue about it. There's all sorts of intelligence, from our intelligence agencies saying that the Russians are continuing to fuck with the election. So there's a chance. Apparently, the Russians held back to some extent in 2016, but there's a chance that the Russians could really get in there and fuck with stuff vote-wise this year.
All right, I'm content to end the show now. I just wanted to make a correction. What is it they have in newspapers? The copyright. I made one mistake in a fact a month ago. I still feel bad about it. Hitler was not elected. I said it was January 3rd, 1933. It was January 31st, 1933. All right. So anything else before we go?
Well, that's it. I mean, if you want to throw money at us, we're always ready to catch it at lancevsrick@gmail.com is our PayPal address.
Great. Stay on the show after we sign off. Stay
Okay.
on the line. I want to talk.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks for
Bye.
watching, everybody. Bye.